Senate or whatever stuff I like to use. And to tell you the truth, a lot of times when I'm just in a kayak, I like to just use lures. It's a simple thing. But since tonight, I was at Dames Point Marina, and I knew that there might be some dancing or some ladies, maybe just a chance. I always keep some hand sanitizer, and my secret weapon, a little spray of body heat. Get the fashion going. But other than that, this is not going to catch any fish.
A little bit louder, Rod.
But anyway, this is a native 12.5. This is a Propel kayak. It's got a propeller. And if I get real shallow water and I just want to go to pedaling, pedal around with the paddle right here, I'll pull it up and I'll show you how it comes up. And that's what you got right there. Now with a propeller, you have the advantage forward and reverse, and it does, and you can get up pretty with the pitch. They figured out the pitch now, where it's pretty effortless. It's not hard work to come out here and fish with a kayak. No gas motor. You just drop it down, secure it, put your splash guard. Like I said, you can back out.
Oh.
And it's real easy. It moves pretty good. And you got your steering with a little lever right here to the left. There's a little steer, a little lever with it. That does a rudder back here. So you can steer it. See how I'm steering it with my hand? Nice thing about reverse, if you go too fast, you're going to hit something. You put reverse and hit the brake.
Yeah.
So this is the only kayak that has it. There's not another kayak that has reverse. Otherwise, you have to get the paddle. This kayak's pretty stable. You can stand in it. See? You can stand up. I can get anything up in here, in my front capacity up here.
I want to see that stand in the front.
My big fish cooler. I can keep, pretty big redfish or trout. You can see pretty big. And forward and reverse. Basically, I like to rig it up simple. I like to keep just a few simple baits. I don't like to carry a bunch of stuff because, I got a small area. That's why I like to use lures. I like to bring about 2 to 3 rods. Always bring a jig. And always bring in 1/4 or 1/8 ounce. There's a difference. The 1/8 has a slower drop. Sometimes they want that slower drop. And 1/4 ounce will get you more contact to the bottom. There we go, get a little closer. Basically, like I've come to like a Dames Point Marina, I like to get with the current coming at me. And anytime you're fishing, I don't care if you're fishing oyster bait or anything, you always want the current coming at you, you have a little more control. Throw up current. And I like to work whatever kind of baits I'm using, top water or jigs, I always like to bring it with the current. And I always like to do a slow, steady swimming action. Whatever lure. This is a grub. I like to just pull it just enough to get it swimming. This is an 1/8 ounce. Now, if I was really wanting to try to get a flounder, I'd probably go to a 1/4 ounce. Because flounder stay on the bottom. You always want a heavier jig for flounder. Other lures I throw, and I like to keep. This is a 7-foot rod. I really like 6.5 for a kayak. I like a short rod.
Yeah.
So you can get in these docks and stuff and cast around. You really don't want a long rod because you the whole object to a kayak is getting places where not where a boat guy can't get confined and get little areas. All right, I brought one of my favorite lures I like to bring, and probably if you listen to the show, me and Captain Vic talk about it, is the blueback bomber. This is a long A. This is what we're talking about. It's one of the best lures for just a lip diver. Nobody can see that. Just out of the box, throwing, you can catch reds and trout, big reds and trout. They'll all hit this lure. Basically, how I like to work that lure is just slow retrieve and pause it. Real slow, stop, just slow retrieve. Or I do a straight, just slow, steady retrieve. I got a special rod here. This is a fiberglass rod.
Now, Roger, when you twitch that, it suspends up, correct?
Yeah, well, there's suspenders and there's floaters. So whenever you do that twitch, if you got a suspender, all you're doing, the thing of the switch is make it change direction from swimming to make it frantic and then pause. And the difference between a suspending bait's going to stay down there in the strike zone, where a floater is going to rise up after you twitch it. So that's the difference. Sometimes those fish want that bait right in front of them. Sometimes they're real aggressive and they like to see that bait float up. That's why you always want to keep either a floater and a diver. I keep both. Like if I feel like the fish are real aggressive, I'll go to a floater where I'll reel it down and I'll twitch it and I'll let it float up. And the way you tell is what lure's catching more fish. You get more bites, you get in a rhythm, you're getting bites that don't change. That's all I'm doing. The whole thing about fishing is finding out what they want, and then once you find the rhythm that they're in, then you stick with it. See, I like to reel it down and then pause it. Reel it down. Pause it. And this is one of my favorite all-time lures for all around, year-round, especially in the wintertime. And then the next lure I keep with me is a top water. Yeah, this is a
Hey, Roger. Back there, that bag you put the fish in, you strap a cooler down there, right?
Yeah, you can put a big old cooler back here. Like if you like live bait or something, you want to keep mud minnows and stuff, you got plenty of room back here. Put an aerator and bait bucket and make you something where a net where you can grab the net. And then
I
bring it
wasn't
up
thinking
to
about live bait. What about fishing with Natty?
or for
Float up the beer.
And and when you're kayaking, there's a little launch down there, or you can pull up over here at Danes Point. Danes Point's always got a cold beer. What time y'all open up?
At 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
Depends on what time Will gets up.
You might have had a bad day.
I roll out of
Or a
bed when
good
I
day.
gotta.
Anyway, this is a top water, and I do a lot of charters. People always ask me, how do you work a top water? And I always look at it as usually a search bait, so I'm always working it fast.
Yeah, you can hear the rattle. Isn't that walk the dog?
Walk the dog. And what I'll do is I'll keep throwing that lure and staying at a fast pace until I get a hit. Until I get a hit, it's the only time I ever slow down. And another thing good about top water is you can cover water. So
Yeah, that's a long cast.
you really always want to watch behind it to see if anything's following it. Now, if something had hit it, missed it, that's when I stop and I'll do baby twitch. Something you don't want to do an over-agitated movement. You don't want to pull it out of the strike zone. So what you want to do is just a little baby twitch. Or sometimes you can do a straight pull like that. Sometimes that will get it. Sometimes you can let it sit there and then do a straight pull like that. They'll hit it. But every time I pull the top water out, and mostly every morning, early morning, that's the first lure I'll usually pick up, just to kind of see how the fish are. If I'm getting bites on the top water for about maybe an hour or so, or if I hit some spots that I know there should be fish, then I go right to the bomber.
Yeah.
Long egg. If I miss, if they're hitting this lure and they're missing, I go right to the bomber long egg. So then if I seem to be hammering them on the bomber long egg, but it's a little deeper water, then I go to the grub. So everything falls. There's like a step. So you start first on the high step with the top water. You start covering water, and the top water is always good for a place like you never fished before, because you're fishing, you cover a lot of water. Plus you're exploring. You're always moving around.
Yeah.
I always tell people, whenever you get in a boat, you go to a creek, do something, exploring a creek, because you're learning a creek. Even though you might go, well, even if you didn't catch a fish that day, you learned something about that creek. You went in that creek, you go, oh, that's deep water. Oh, that's shallow water. Oh, I saw some fish over there. So you got to remember that. So as long as, and then you keep going that top water, you're fishing, you may get a hit somewhere in that creek, because fish always stage in a certain part of the creek somewhere. So that's always, people always say, well, I didn't catch anything. You always got to keep positive, and you're always learning when you're when you're in a creek, even if you're not catching anything. So I don't ever let it bother me especially when I fish a new creek. Now, if I fished a creek and been hammering, then I might let it bother me. And then if you hired me on a charter and I start perspiring because we ain't caught no fish, then I might let it bother me. But otherwise than that,
Get real hungry.
other than that, just say you say, hey, I want to go to Clapper. I want to go to the first creek. You get up there, you move around, you look, you get a depth finder, you see how deep it is, you see where the shallow area is, the deep part of the creek, the deep part is the turn. You throw that top water. If you get a hit, and you go, wow, on a point, and they miss it, you go to the bomber long egg. Now that's the blue bag.
Yeah.
And that's the one with the big eyes. That big eyes is a suspender. And then the regular floater has got the smaller painted eyes. And I like both of them. You want the suspender when they're not chasing it up on the surface. You want that suspender where it stays down deep. And you want that floater when they're missing it on the top.
I want to see something
Any
great.
other questions? Want to ask anything about the kayak?
Where do you get that kind of kayak?
Well, they got a few places in town, but they're trying to get another dealership. But we're, if you want to ask me, talk to me after the seminar, maybe I can help you out. I'm just going to keep it personal.
You told me one time strikes.
Between me, but I think you probably.
Manatee.
Man!
We don't want to hook him.
I want to see him come out there and scare the
Manatee
hell
love
out of me.
kayak. I've never seen a gator when I was in the kayak, but if I see something big and it flushes around, I just don't look down. I keep looking up. So people always ask me, what if you saw a shark? If I even see a glimmer of a shark, and I've been looking down all day, and I see something big down there moving around, I keep my head up. And just keep acting like nobody even notices nothing. And then I look for a point out here to get away from it. Right. Roger, when you do a kayak
I was in a kayak one time down there, Green Coast Springs area, and something moved in the water and scared the hell out of me. And
you gotta, it's
I don't know what it was,
you
but I
gotta
was
be up there
able
close
to
and
beat it
personal,
with
and
the
I'm there to
paddle.
help you.
There's some big
If
stuff
you get
out
too
there.
many people, then it gets too scattered, and it's
It was that Trout Creek down there.
charters,
I'm talking about.
real serious.
I don't get down to Green Cove much.
It was on the other side of the river, St. Johns County side, but that was Trout Creek in there, and I went in there. Right in there, and I was coming back in there, and whatever was in there moved.
And I keep it real simple. I keep it real simple. I really don't even bring it
It's about
down.
had me want to walk on
Sometimes I
water.
do, like in the tournament I will. I think last tournament I didn't bring it in. But I should have. I like to keep the less stuff you can put in here and you think you can get away with. It's
Yeah.
not a boat. A boat you can put everything in. In a kayak you try to put as less you can. But I'll tell you what I will do. On the last tournament, I wanted 6 rods. And as you can see, I only like to keep 3 rods up here. I went up and say, let me show you a little trick.
Oh, see, you double stack this rod holder.
I'm going to show you how
I
stable
like the way those
kayak.
tubes are.
Yeah.
I don't see any rod holders.
I don't like the high rod
You
holders.
don't control.
I like that
I'll tell you why
pedal
I don't like
system. They
rod
had
holders.
another
You
one
always
on
tell
the
a
Hobie.
fisherman when you don't have
It's
your
not
rod
like that one.
But I like
They're
to go
more
up on a certain
plastic.
dock.
Yeah.
But that one looks like it flips up.
See, always, you
I was
know,
gonna ask him
the
about
way
that. You know, toward that
you always
black
got to look for
storage
something that no one
compartment.
else is
So
looking
if you
for.
want to flip it
If
back
something's
down, I
hard
don't
for
know.
a regular person to go, I'm not going into there, then I ain't. Because if I see something bait, there is some docks in the river, like that dock right over there. I'll actually get up underneath it and jig around it. And it's all about another angle, another look.
Yeah.
And
I'm like, you know, like that paddle system.
that's why I don't like putting any rod racks, or I like going up underneath docks. It saves you time when you go up underneath the dock than going all the way around it. Now, another thing is that last tournament,
You're talking about a little money there.
extra rods. So what I did was,
I don't know about standing up
Come
in
up
that
here.
thing, though.
Yeah, he stood up in it.
I seen that, but I don't know about me doing it.
Yeah.
I'd be in the water.
I just stuck a rod down up in here, slid it down up into there.
All right, it goes all the way up through that way.
So that gives you extra storage. And it's nice to have a kayak. I don't recommend doing it, but when you're on the water, it's nice to know that you have a kayak that's stable enough where if you had to open water, you could go up to it rather than go beat yourself on the land. But you do have that kind of storage in here where you can stick those rods
Yeah.
down in here and keep you some extra rods. Because you never know what's going to happen out there.
Right.
I just don't like to keep a lot of stuff up here because then you're not having a lot of space, and you drop something over, you lost it.
Yeah.
Roger, you ever use an anchor or use some kind of like
I don't ever use an anchor,
okay?
unless I'm blind bait. Sometimes I do use an anchor, and I do bring like a stick, a stake.
Right.
But a lot of times, or like a little anchor with a rope, and I'll just throw it over the side and tie it to the
Right.
this. But I am getting an anchor trolley. They do make them for these. And the nice thing about an anchor trolley is it's like a cup clothesline. You can set it up here, and then you can wheel it up to the front of the boat where it will hold you up in there. Kind of show you how fast this thing goes. Let's see how fast. So I know y'all want to say, well, how fast can this thing go? Let's see.
Yeah.
He'll jump when he is, or I've seen him reach.
I'm gonna race the man.
Race of manatee. That's what if I ever got one, I want one pedal kind of like that.
Another thing, like I said, when you come running up, it's nice to have that reverse for brakes. Where you can control it.
So do you use the kayak as your advantage, as far as weight? If you hook something big and he's dragging you out somewhere?
Well, yeah, another thing is, if you get a big fish, you can put that, it's nice to have reverse and kind of. But usually what I do is, I keep that fish in front of me, and I'll let him pull me around
Yeah.
and turn that boat around. Just wear him out.
Tire him out.
Well, let's see if I can get one, and that'll be it for the seminar. If y'all have any questions, I'll be up there in a second.
Does that rudder get in the way in shallow water?
No, it's built in. Another thing nice about the Native is other kayaks you have a two system where you have to pull the rudder up That's another thing to worry about. This one, you don't never have to worry about the rudder. You
Well,
don't ever have to pull it up because it's built into the boat, and they build it in there in a way where you don't ever have to worry about hitting anything.
So
on
if you're
there.
getting shaft folds up or something?
Yeah, it's got a keel in front of it that protects it.
Yeah, okay. Oh,
So
okay.
that's nice where you don't have to. I don't know if you've seen other kayaks where you got to pull
Right, yeah.
it. This one you don't have to worry about. All you do is worry about steering.
Yeah.
So that's one less thing breaking. I ain't get no bite. But anyway, I appreciate y'all coming out.
Yep, we appreciate it. I've been wanting to see.
I'll be up there and I'll bring the kayak up there, and if y'all have any questions, I'll let you look at it.
All right.